There is a type of client that not only pays on time, makes your team happier, make deliverables easier to deliver, and overall stay longer. In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how to find and retain these dream clients yourself. Now, if you ever had clients ghost you because of whatever reason, they went on vacation and they just made everything late, or they asked for extra deliverables and they burnt your team out, you want to pay attention to what I'm going to show you in this video. Now, before we get into it, I actually want to break down what are the hidden costs of you keeping bad clients around. And there are a lot of things that most people and most companies don't actually consider when it comes to clients. I also want to talk about why churn can kill your agency and how we've seen it kill a lot of agencies, in fact. And also, I actually want to tell you why most people suck at this. Now, in the first place, why should you listen to me? I will actually tell you, our companies have worked with over 350 clients, a lot of absolute gems, some nightmares here and there where we learn a lot from. And we've been able to make all of our companies actually operate very lean, up to 5 employees, and with 80% profit margins in the 6-figure range. So now I want to show you exactly what this looks like, right? And one thing I will note is that most of our clients, except the ones that hired us just for us to test some things here and there, or just test their offer in cold email, for example, are still with us to this day, except the ones that we downsold because it didn't make sense to continue working with them because we wanted to charge higher, for example, or because the deliverables just didn't make sense for our team and we wanted to restructure the company. Clients that we fired or completed all of the one-off scope of work. Now, let's get first into what we said first, which is most companies just simply don't understand the cost of a bad client. Bad clients can cause a surprising amount of damage, and here is how one bad client can cost your agency a lot of money. First, let's just define a frame to look towards this. This is just a regular average billing rate that companies have per hour, let's say $150. You could be charging a lot more, and if so, calculate all of these numbers with an extra amount to them. If you charge less, just calculate with less. It's still going to be very relevant for you. And the first one is actually the time drain. This is a reality for most companies that we consult on, and we've seen this over and over again. They predicted that project is going to take, let's say, up to 20 hours with some padding. And then what ends up happening is they onboard a bad client. They start asking for more deliverables. They start delaying the project. They start changing things around. They have a lot of revisions. And what was actually supposed to only take 20 hours ends up taking 80 hours. Now, I know that is a 4x increase, but trust me, I've seen this reality in a lot of agencies. It could be happening in your agencies if you're not calculating exactly how long it's taking to deliver a project. Now, how much is that costing you? Let's say you have the 6 extra hours times $150 per hour. It could be easily $9,000 a month of unbilled time. And not only that, there is the next thing. There is a team burnout reality that you have to always consider. Let's say you have 2 team members that start underperforming or leave your company because of this client. The actual cost to replace this employee could be up to $10,000 in recruiting, in lost productivity, in lost time of your time. And overall, it can just cost you a lot. It costs you missed deadlines, client escalations, and overall poor morale in the company. So that is also something that people need to consider when they're looking at overall client fulfillment. Now, the next one is opportunity costs. I know this is something a bit up in the air, but you always should be considering that, especially if you want to scale your agency, if you want to get to 100 clients, however many clients you want to get, or if you want to be lean, you want to have, like us, 20 clients that are extremely profitable, that have bigger scopes, and they're very scaled. Now, even then, you need to look at opportunity cost of bringing one single bad client. A bad client can take up time that could be used for a completely new client, let's say $12,000 a month, worth of a client, which is the type of situation that we like to have in our companies. And the worst part is you can't onboard new work or launch any new growth projects because your team is so busy fulfilling this bad client. Now, the next one, and this is extremely important, and most people actually don't consider this one too, which is brand damage, right? You can't really showcase the work for this client that is bad. The client might leave a bad review or complain about delays, which they cause most of the time, but they don't admit it. It's normal. Or even worse, they can just give you bad referrals. Then now we'll just damage your brand a lot. The next one is just the overall legal and financial risk. These clients can not only start disputing invoices, they can even start asking for you to pay them because of all of this problem that they had to go through, although it was them that caused this, and it could have been fixed early on if you knew how. Last one, it can just reinforce a very bad pattern in your company. You start building workflows around them. You start getting on more meetings. You have longer review loops. You bring in more team to fulfill this client, and they're not paying more. And all in all, this is just the reality most agencies actually face nowadays. And although they don't want to admit, they're just losing a lot of money and brand equity just because they're accepting bad clients in, thinking that they need the money to keep the company going because they think that money is the oxygen of the business. Now, let's look at the opposite. Let's say you now want to make a complete pivot on this. Most companies talk about getting more clients to then have more money, pay better employees, and start improving from there. But I'll actually challenge that. What if I told you that our secret to scaling wasn't actually having more clients, it was having the right ones and keeping them longer, which is exactly what I want to show you in this video today. I'll tell you the exact channels that we used to accomplish that and what were the benefits and the cons of every single one of these channels. Now, first of all, let's just once again set the frame right. You don't need more leads. You need the right ones at the right temperature, meaning the right ones that actually want to work with you and actually have potential of becoming fantastic clients. Another thing, high intent clients are easier to build relationships with and more likely to stay long term. And you always want to keep thinking of that. So let's talk about one of the primary acquisition methods in our companies, which are actually personal brand creation or overall content creation. And the number one thing here that I want to actually state is that a lot of companies, they look for sexy viewership or subscriber numbers. They pay attention to a lot of metrics that don't necessarily matter when it comes to getting better clients, getting bigger deals, and overall acquiring talent as well, which is something that we're not going to talk too much about today, but there are other videos in this channel that talk about that if you're curious about it, but it also accomplishes that. So the first thing that we want to establish is that you want to deliver more value rather than be flashy and get a lot of views, okay? I'm way more impressed with small channels that have a lot of in-depth videos and higher retention rate than just massive entertainment-driven channels. Just being very honest, because I've seen the backends of a lot of these channels, including the ones that have driven the growth of our companies, and they're pretty small channels. But when you look at the audience, it's a very high-quality audience that tends to watch a lot of the videos for a very long time. And when we got on a call with them, it's not a matter of convincing them. It's pretty much a matter of solving the logistics of how we can work together. They're already convinced, and that is extremely important. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this. First of all, remove all of your excuses that you have around content, around time, around whether you should do it or not, around whether or not you're going to have viewership, and just show your competency online. That's just all you have to do. You don't have to make these very well-produced videos. All you have to do is just show a little bit of what you have going on, show competency, show that you're better than the average person deliver the service, and then get attention to those videos. Now, when someone watches your content, they're not just consuming, they're actually qualifying themselves silently without even needing to say a word. And by the time they DM you, you're not selling. Once again, you're just helping them make a decision they've already made. And so by this time, you should already be realizing why content creation is so important for your business strategy in acquiring better clients. Now let's get into the next one. Podcast appearances. Here's the most important thing. You will want to pitch shows where your dream clients already are listening in, and you're not just building a brand, you're actually building credibility by association, right? Pretty much what you're doing is borrowing the reputation of the podcast host and getting the trust that the audience has on them towards you, onto you, right? And overall, what we notice from our podcast appearances is that it attracts a higher quality audience and it builds a lot of intent for you. Again, you get on calls and people are excited to talk to you. And that is a much different situation than if they get on a call thinking already, what can you do for me? Are you actually the right person? It's a much better situation. Now, I understand that if you're starting out, all of these things could be out of the way and you want to start with something a little bit, not necessarily easier, but a little bit more hands-on and overall faster to get some traction on. And so we will recommend our bread and butter, which is cold email. Now, there is a big difference in the way a lot of companies do cold email and the way that we actually recommend companies do cold email in order to get high intent and get better clients that actually stay longer, pay you more, make your team happier, etc. Keep on counting all of the benefits from there. And that is bulk versus generic sending. A lot of companies will just pray and pray. I bet you already heard about it. But the problem with bulk sending is that you're in the business of volume and screening. You need to send a lot of emails to find someone that's going to raise their hand that they are considering the type of service right now. Versus you could be sending personalized email that will get a higher intent and will get someone to react to you in a different manner. They'll show up on a call thinking more like, yeah, let's see how they can help. Versus, prove me that I should work with you, which is what usually comes from a lot of generic emails. I know they can get you a lot of meetings, but, and if you send a scale, of course, but personalized emails are the ones that will get you the people that are most excited to talk to you. And that makes a big difference when it comes to closing rates. That makes a big difference when it comes to retention rates. Now let's talk about the next one. which is actually going to be strategic gifting. And to start this off, I actually want to recommend you a book. It's called Giftology. This was a book recommended by an advisor of one of our companies in the past. His name is Joey Gilkey. Strongly recommend that you look him up on YouTube. He's a fantastic marketer overall, fantastic at outbound, and right now he's providing some of the best phone numbers in the industry in case you're doing cold calling. Nonetheless, this is a strategy that can actually impress even the biggest of the CEOs out there just by sending personalized gifts that get their attention and let them want to discuss a partnership with you. So what would be an example of that? Let's say you have your team, go on YouTube, find podcasts of the biggest CEOs out there, try to find a personal connection, such as, let's say you find a CEO that is very into Star Wars. Now, how could you get their attention? You could get their attention by actually sending them a gift, which is, let's say, a one-time collectible item from Star Wars. And along with it comes a note saying that you heard their podcast, you found a very inspiring X, Y, and Z personalized note from the podcast, and you actually have a bunch of ideas that are kind of crazy, but it can make them a lot more money. And you ask them if they would be willing to hop on a call to hear them out. Now, think about it. If you just received this big gift in your hands, it's something that you actually care about, and you know this person has put effort into getting it and has put effort into deciding that was the best one for you, you will want to reciprocate even to some extent. Even just by saying to them, hey, we already have a lot of partners for this. It's not something to consider right now. I really appreciate this gift. I will talk to you just because of that. Right? You would want to reciprocate in some level, right? Again, the magic here comes from the gift that you send, not necessarily the fact that you just sent a gift. Most companies send mugs. It's like, where are you living? 2019? That's pretty much what it feels like. But if you can send personalized gifts, you will get better responses. You will get more intent from these people. Now, once again, you're in the sending out game. No sending pens with your logo, but actually personalized, meaningful gifts and following up on all of the other platforms about it. So you want to follow up with them on LinkedIn about this gift that you sent them. You want to follow up with them on email about this gift that you sent them. You want to call their assistants. You want to call directly CEOs if you have their number and it's legal for you to call them. And you want to talk about it. And that's how you get them on a meeting. Now, there is also an online version of that. Let's say you're wanting to acquire clients in the US, but you're actually located in Norway for whatever reason, and you still want to make something happen along the lines of gifting companies. And instead of you having to deal with sending services in countries that you're not in, you could just be sending virtual gift cards or vouchers. One tactic that I've seen a lot, and I actually received this not so often, but I receive every once in a while, and it's kind of cool because it does bring my attention in, and I have talking to the people that have sent me this, is just sending a PayPal with an amount, could be a small amount, and an attached personalized note asking if you could show them how your solution can help them. Again, it's the same gist as the gift. You want to make it personalized. You want to add a note as to why you're reaching out, why they would be the ideal candidate, and you want to just frame it as you have this bunch of ideas you could be implementing for them that will actually help them. And that's how you could send gift cards or vouchers that actually get people's attention and actually get them to want to be on a call with you. Now, let's get to the next one. The next thing you could be doing is running ads. I know a lot of people talk very bad about ads. A lot of companies have tried it before, haven't seen the ROI. They don't think it's as direct. They don't think it attracts the right audiences, etc. We've heard them all. Now, we've been running ads for over a year and a half right now. We've been paying on average 30 USD per call. And that has been consistent. But the reason why we have been paying such a low amount per call for such a long time without even refreshing our ads is mainly because we had all of the other acquisition channels in place in order to bring in the right people, to be retargeted by the right ads, and then bring them in on a call. Now, if you don't have an audience already to retarget, here's what you could do. You could be running ads, but you need to be running the right ads. And first, I just want to break down what the wrong ad would look like and then what the right ad would look like. The wrong ad would be something flashy and overpromising. Think about it like they're running all of these flashy images and they're trying to use all of sorts of cool graphics and trying to lure people in because they need their attention, etc. But what they end up actually attracting is people that are attracted to that type of content. Versus if you're looking for better clients that are not as flashy, they are calmer, they're just more professional, engaging, and overall competent, you have to launch ads that are professional, engaging, and competent, right? So then you attract serious companies for serious and overall competent partnerships. Now, that is the main difference between the two. If you're curious about what type of ads I recommend you running, you can drop a comment down below. Just say ads, and I can send you a link to our ad library. I can show you some examples of ads, or I can even just help you tailor some ads that could work for your company. Now, for some context, I've been a media buyer before I even was an entrepreneur. I've been doing media buying for a very, very, very long time. It's something that I just love doing. And I've seen a lot of patterns as to ads that can work B2B and ads that will definitely not work. So yeah, feel free to run any of your ads by me. I'll be happy to give you a second opinion on them. Now, let's get into the next acquisition method, which is something that we started doing more recently and has worked fantastically for our companies, which is events and in-person networking. It is very high intent if you do it right, if you're actually charismatic, if you actually talk to people and you're not only just selling them, but instead you're just building a relationship, not in a fake way, but in an actual genuine way. You actually want to know all of these other CEOs and founders that are at these events. And then you sprinkle in pretty much all of the benefits of the service that you deliver for companies like theirs. And you're not even asking for the sale. You're just asking for a conversation. It's just way more casual. And that can increase a lot the intent of the people that actually come on calls with your team or your sales team and end up buying. Now, one thing that it also allows for is strategic on-commission referral partnerships with other businesses. You can find businesses that sell services similar to yours and pretty much convince them that if they are buying a client that's very happy and that wants to work with them further, they could be referring you to serve other services at the same time, and so that they get a more all-encompassing service done for them. And that is also something that you can sell on these in-person events or just in-person networking overall. Okay? Now, let's get to the next one, which is actually referrals. This is something we're going to talk more about at the end of this video. It's extremely important. Most companies don't do it right, which is just the idea that you want to incentivize current partners to want to benefit from referring your business to other companies that they know. Now, these, to be very honest with you, should be the absolute best clients you could possibly onboard. Why? Just because these are people that already had someone else say how great you are. So they don't have to figure out a way to trust you. They will already trust you by extension. And that is something that would definitely play in your favor. Now, let's start talking more about how do we screen these people once they do come in. And first, I want to just emphasize these aren't absolutes. It's not black and white. There are shades of gray in between the arguments I'm going to present to you right now. And just like you have good people that do bad things, you have bad people that do good things. You will find that some of the things will not apply to every single sales call that you or your team are going to be having. Now, these are overall patterns that we noticed from working with over 250 clients, and they have gotten us absolute gems and have avoided us a lot of nightmare clients, to be very honest with you. So let's get straight into it. The number one thing is I want to emphasize that retention isn't loyalty. It's compatibility. This is something we noticed a lot of times. It wasn't about us figuring out ways to and applying a lot of hacks to try to make them stay. It was about just being compatible and just having similar communication styles, similar ways of working, similar expectations of what would be delivered at the end of the day. And so you don't need to beg someone to stay when they actually feel like they are built for each other. Right? You don't need to force a partnership when they already feel like they want to be working with you because you already mentally align, your ideas align, your expectations align, and etc. So let's talk about, in practice, what does this look like? First thing that you want to screen for is communication style. You want to watch out for things like neediness, excessive follow-ups. We once had a guy that followed up 5 times, right? Like even before they paid a contract. Massive red flag. Of course, it would be someone that would be problematic if ever we had issues. They would be constantly on our team, driving stress way up for things that wouldn't even matter, which were the case for the follow-ups that they have sent us at the time. So, of course, we didn't end up working with them. We want to definitely prioritize our team because our team is able to take on way more clients than client can generate in revenue for us. And therefore, it's a much better strategic decision to prioritize your team over just some quick cash. And so that's what we've done in that case. Now, the next one would be even attempts to expand the scope before paying. You find someone that, of course, if someone is asking for like, hey, can we just add this little bonus here? Can we add this PDF that you mentioned in a video online? Can we add this 1-hour call just to talk about potential structures for ads? I know you're selling cold email, but I want to talk about ads. Those are okay. But when you're trying to double the amount of leads that you're going to deliver to them, for example, or they're trying to creep in extra work that wasn't necessarily something that's absolutely needed, and they're just trying to squeeze more for their money, that's something you should pay attention to because these behaviors typically just continue after you onboard them. And so always just keep an eye on this type of communication style. The next one, which is very similar and is actually building upon what I just said, is observe their negotiation approach. If they are very aggressive price negotiators, which happens sometimes, they often try to get the maximum value for minimum amount of investment. And what happens is this doesn't only stay before the negotiation, it's after as well. And these tend to become clients that are very difficult because they tend to use a lot of emotions to trick you into doing more work. They tend to guilt you into giving them more value. And that's something that we just notice overall. Again, there are companies that just want to negotiate price for the sake of negotiating price because is just getting a better deal, but there are also companies that are just trying to squeeze the maximum amount of the engagement. And that's not necessarily the type of relationship that you want to be building if you want to work with them for a very long time. Again, you want to prioritize your team, you will want to prioritize your company culture, and you want to choose very deliberately the people that you have around your culture. And so this is something to always keep an eye on. The next one, and this is something most companies overlook, which is assessing past experiences. A lot of clients that didn't get success with other agencies and blame them, or clients that actually are the common denominator as to why it didn't work, and they'll repeat it just again with you. So you need to look for patterns when they say things that have the underlying frame of, it didn't work because of them, right? Or, of course it didn't work because they didn't know what they were doing, right? That is always a problem. These clients tend not to be too collaborative, and they tend to cause a lot of problems. And of course, they'll cause churn, they'll cause you to lose money, they'll cause stress, etc. So always keep an eye on that. And the last thing, just notice contract attitudes. One thing that we notice overall is that there is two sides to the story, okay? There are also clients that want very strict contracts that push it to the limit. They bring in law teams and understand they're trying to protect themselves. Those tend to also be somewhat of a red flag, not always, but if they're way too strict and they have way too many terms and way too many things they want in and way too many protections, there is usually a reason for that. And it could be a lot of bad experiences. It could be that they tend to pretty much extrapolate all of those. But you also have clients that would try to just loosen up agreements. They'll try to make things more vague. And vagueness is the killer of the contract. And therefore, you want to be looking at clients that are overall more okay with the terms. They may discuss one or two, but they would not be trying to induce more vagueness into the contract, which oftentimes we found that leads to clients that just try to use guilt later on to bring your team to do more. One thing to pay attention to here as well, as I mentioned, guilt twice. This is something that usually goes below the surface. It's not something that's done to the owner or founder. It's actually something that's done to the team. They get on a team call and somehow they frame things in a way like the team hasn't done enough and they aren't really happy, and they're creating this environment where they are the validators of what's good and bad. And then what ends up happening is they start guilting your team into doing more. The team starts doing more. And then when you come in and you want to reduce that because you have a lot of extra work creeping in, then now you're the bad person because the team has already started and you're trying to push away because you might be a bad founder, right? We haven't had many cases when this happened. It happened only once in all of our journey, but this could easily have been avoided if you had just paid attention to how they try to negotiate the contracts. So always keep an eye on that. Now let's talk about onboarding. And I'll be honest with you, if you have a CSM or you have an AM that handles onboarding for you, this section is exactly what they need to memorize, and they should run it with every single client, okay? Why? Mainly because onboardings are your insurance. Now, I want to set things clear. Let me actually move this on. One thing to know is that a great onboarding doesn't just help your client. It protects your time. It prevents a lot of fires. It sets the rules for the game. And if you skip this, you don't just risk miscommunication. You risk actually retraining the client wrong from day one. And that is a massive problem, right? So great onboarding doesn't actually just tell the client what's happening. It makes them feel safe. It removes confusion before it can even exist, okay? You don't need to explain everything to the client. You just give your team the right frame so the client feels it without saying it, okay? They just need to feel safe as they're getting walked through this onboarding experience, okay? Now, let's get on. How do we actually make that happen? The first thing is going to be creating structured sequences. These are very simple. Having onboarding forms that make it very easy for you to get information from them without needing a lot of back and forth. If they need back and forth, of course, help them. But if you can create a form that will solve that for you, of course, it will save you a lot of time, save a lot of problems, because a lot of times people can write better than speak. And if they can just put all of the information down in a form, they're more likely to not miss a bunch of key pieces of information. Now, always, if you find that something is ambiguous or too vague, you want to confirm with the client nonetheless. Next one. You definitely want to set padded deadlines to ensure smooth transitions. One thing that you will never see a client complain about is a lot of expectations being set from the beginning, right? You want to pad things and you want to deliver faster than what you padded them. That's extremely important. And again, the last note here was manage expectation from day one. From day one, you want to, in the first message you send them, always let them know, hey, this is what's going to happen next. This is the order of sequence of everything that's going to happen for you within this deliverable scope. And this is how we're going to get to the final result that we're looking to get. And I'll share with you the framework that we have all of our team members in our company memorize and implement every time they need to communicate with a client. It's actually very simple. all you want to do is whenever you're sending an update or you're replying to a message, you want to greet them, of course. You want to give them context as to what you're about to say and why does it matter. Then you want to go into the content, which is the update or asking for the things that you need to ask. And you always, this is the most important piece, always want to end with a call to action or next steps. What is going to happen from here? For example, once this happens, this is what we're going to do next. Another thing that we like to do in all of our companies is always point out who the bottleneck is at what stage. So for example, one type of message that I like to send at the end of my updates is, by the way, just so you know, this is a current bottleneck for us to X, Y, and Z tasks we're going to do after. So the sooner you can get back to us on this, the sooner we can get moving. Thank you. Right? That is something that helps a lot. And again, when you show them, hey, you are the bottleneck, they now know how important it is to get back to you within a timely manner. And that is important. Now, the next thing that you always want to make sure that you're doing or have your team doing is reinforce competence. You want to keep on sharing results you're overall getting. So for example, you just wrapped up a massive case study for another client. You want to share with your current clients. You want to be like, hey, we just finished a project with this company. Look at how many leads they got. Look at how good the results were, and look at how we implemented that. This is exactly what we're building for you too. The sale process does not stop as soon as they pay. It actually just starts. And that's something you want to keep in mind. And the next one is keep on sharing just findings overall from your industry. Let's say in our case, we have cold email companies. If you're finding that there is a hack to make our emails land better on Microsoft inboxes, we want to share that. And the same way for you, if you're doing SEO, you want to share your new updates as to how you're going to make SEO work for them. Whether they're going to read it or not, it still reinforces the fact that they look at you as an authority and someone that actually knows what you're doing, or a company that actually knows what they're doing. And the last thing that most companies actually overlook is setting up approval points. And that is very simple, just sending a form to get an approval that the deliverable was actually completed. A lot of companies send a deliverable, get an okay from the client, and continue. The problem with that is a lot of times client can come back to this approval and say, hey, no, I actually wanted something else. So what you want to do instead is set up a form that contains the final deliverable, contains a button that says, I confirm that I've received this deliverable and it's fully completed. And you put a note below, we won't be able to come back to this later on. I know it sounds harsh, but this is exactly how you avoid a lot of extra revisions when something has already been approved, and you avoid a lot of team frustration. So make sure you always keep that in mind. If you want to see my onboarding docs or you want to see some of our onboarding docs, you can just DM me or drop a comment down below, and I'm happy to share some of this stuff with you. So let me know. Now, let's get to the next one. How do we actually maintain strong client relationships? I will tell you, I'll be very honest. We had clients ready to leave a few times. We had a personal check-in at that point. And a lot of times they showed a lot of competency, gave them ideas on how they would make their money back. And they were okay with continuing with us. And then we showed a lot of competency once again, delivered great results, and we retained them for a lot longer. By the way, a lot of these clients are with us to this day. And they had times when they wanted to leave, and all they actually needed is just a reinforcement that we are still experts, we still know what we're doing, and we have a plan to make it work for them. A lot of companies don't want to just keep on hopping through different agencies, hopping through different businesses to figure out how to get a result. They just want to know that you are actually handling this to the best of your ability. And that's the comfort that you need to give them if you get on a call with them when they are about to drop you, or when things are going great as well, which is something I'm going to talk more about later on in this video. Now, keeping clients forever requires ongoing intentional relationship management. Here is what we do in our companies and that we recommend that you consider as well. Number one is demonstrate value. One thing that we like to do is train all of our teams to show appreciation and genuine care for a point of contact. So let's say we're talking to the owner, or we're talking to a head of marketing, or we're talking to someone higher up in the company. We like to show, if it is genuine, that we appreciate that they are actually the people that are talking to us. We like to say things like, hey, I just appreciate that you're the person that's sending us all of this stuff. You always send it super fast, and that helps us a lot with delivering the results for you. Right? It's very genuine. It's not something forced. It's not like, oh, thank you for your partnership and trust for so long. It's like, no. This is the exact thing that I value about a partnership. And that's why I like that it's you that I'm talking to. And this is a framework that we have all of our team members always keep in mind when they're sending messages. If they can be appreciative of someone being helpful, they will. Okay? Now, how do you create that? First, you got to ask yourself, do I actually value this partnership? If so, show it. And you also got to ask, do I actually care about this point of contact? If so, show it. Right? It's actually that simple. Now let's get to the next one. Celebrate wins. This is the one that most companies think, oh, that's so obvious, yet they don't do. Now, what would be the type of win that we're talking about celebrating with the client? It would be highlight achievements. right? You just achieved something great for them. You got them a bunch of leads, or you got them a lot of results, or you got the first draft done. Fantastic. Highlight that. Just say, hey, we were actually expecting to get this done on X date. We got it done way earlier. So that allows us to go now back and forth on any adjustments that you want. And overall, we're just staying on track. We're ahead of the plan. And so this is the next point that I actually made bold in this presentation, which is early deliverables. Whenever you deliver something earlier or before deadline, you definitely want to highlight it. You want to have it's as if you have like a glass or a jar full of sweets, and you just want to keep throwing sweets in there to keep on collecting them every time that you find them, just so you build like this huge stack of wins that you can always refer back to later on. And in this case, you want to just have all of this achievements, all of these deliverables delivered early to be noticed. And once you are late because of whatever reason, you can always point back, hey, we've been ahead of this project for X amount of time. As you can see, we were ahead on this deliverable, that deliverable, that deliverable, that deliverable, that deliverable. And now we're having a hiccup here because of X, Y, and Z. But here's how we're solving that. Again, remember to show competency. And now overall, just anytime that you have a positive outcome, like the client says, hey, this is great, celebrate with them, okay? Send gifts, make sure you're congratulating them on that, etc. It does count, although it seems very simple, okay? Now let's get to the next one. Oops, let me come back right here. The next one is actually you want to nurture the relationships, and you want to maintain one consistent point of contact who you can actually build a personal connection with, have your team build this personal connection with. That would be very simple. It's just simply training your team, and we have trained all of our team members on this, to hop on a call, and if they're genuinely interested about something about this person, ask about it. Like, hey, I actually saw a podcast that you mentioned that you just got a new Cayman. That's actually kind of cool. How are you liking the car? And it's just having a normal, genuine conversation. It's not only talking about deliverables and about moving the project forward, but also at the same time, of course, not wasting their time, not being needy, not being weird about it, right? This is something that you actually have to emphasize to your team and train them if needed. Now, the next point is actually very simple. We call it the ABS framework in our company, which is always be sharing. We're constantly providing ideas, showing them the type of results that we're getting, and even sometimes getting them valuable connections. If we know that they are shopping for a specific type of service and we know someone that delivers that service very well, we're going to be connecting them with that person in order to help them achieve the success that they're looking to achieve. Now, let's get into the next point, managing communication and overall expectations with clients. Now, first of all, no client will ever cry about agreeing and defining expectations. Correct misalignments very early on. I cannot stress how important this is. We have a lot of times where we onboard clients, we forgot to set expectations in the beginning, and then 2 days in, they're like, hey guys, why is this not moving fast? And we're like, hey, we actually just started. This is something we usually deliver by day 5. And they're like, oh, I didn't know. But now we already collected a bad reaction just because we didn't align early on. So make sure that you're aligning always very early on, or have your team doing that for you. Now, first step is, of course, set communication standards. What we like to do in our company is establish only one channel just to avoid confusion. This way, everyone knows where to find things and everyone is always in the loop for everything that is going on in the project. You want to make the standard in your company. Now, the next thing is you want to make it clear that immediate responses aren't supposed to be expected for every single message. And you actually want to discourage lengthy threads that start creating a lot of confusion. I see a lot of consulting clients come to us and they show us their Slack channels and always see these massive threads going back and forth on a lot of things, and they end up kind of ambiguous. They are vague at the end. There is no clear set next step on what you're doing, who is assigned. And a lot of times they usually have those chats directly with the client and the team is not seeing those, and it just creates confusion all around. And then it creates a lot of frustration. Frustration just reduces the speed in which you deliver your work. Now you're delayed. Now you have problems. Now you perhaps don't retain the client. Now you have less money, and now you got to assign more clients. It's a problem all around. So make sure the channel is defined and is defined beforehand. The next thing is, this is one that's usually a misconception, and most people tend to take a minute to understand what this actually means, which is you want to be strategic with your reporting. Over-reporting can cause a lot of unnecessary concerns. For example, let's say you're doing cold email or ads and you're reporting daily on results. A lot of times what will happen is clients will come to you and be like, hey, why are results so bad? When it was just actually a bad day, right? And if you haven't communicated that often and you have communicated weekly instead, you would have removed all of the noise, showed only the signal, and now they're happier. Or now, if the results are actually bad, you're addressing them when they're actually supposed to be addressed, and not beforehand, and not just collecting a lot of bad reactions for no good reason. So be very careful whenever you're over-reporting in whatever way. Okay, so always ask yourself or have your team ask themselves, is this a signal or is this a noise? Signal being, hey, it's actually a lead indicator that there might be a problem. Noise being, okay, it's just been a day. It's not that important yet. Always keep that in mind. So once again, daily updates might actually prompt a lot of questions about non-issues and create anxiety where none should exist. So bear in mind. The next one is frame everything in a very long-term context if you actually want to develop a very long-term relationship. So for example, one thing we have trained all of our teams to do in order to frame things long-term is using phrases such as the ones that follow. Campaigns we will run this year. Or next one, tasks per quarter, right? We're going to test all of these campaigns this quarter, right? Or taking over the market this year. So our plan this year is to do X, Y, and Z campaign, and our goal is just to completely take over the market by the end of the year, right? Even if you have them on a monthly billable cycle, you want to be framing things in a year perspective, because guess what? Businesses are not built in a day. They actually take time, and when they take time, they're actually building a solid foundation, and they're actually built to stay. And you always want to be emphasizing this to clients as well, okay? Now, I'll be very honest, my team knows this playbook code. Like, we don't chase clients, we attract partners. And I always tell like my ops leads, excellence requires practice, and we don't over-report, we over-deliver. That's a very good frame of mind. That will help you a lot with retention. Now, let's get on. Next. Oh, I was actually jumping over one. Handle challenge proactively. Whenever clients are meeting expectations, or whenever your team is not meeting expectations, over-communicate with competence. Always explain the issue immediately. As soon as you find out, don't wait for them to find out first. Always find it yourself. Go to them, show what is happening, and now show competence. The way to show competence is very simple. Hey, this is the issue that we're finding. Hey, you're not getting enough meetings this week, but what we found is that there is an issue with your tracking settings on the campaigns that's causing us to get lower deliverability. But what we're going to do to fix all of this is X, Y, and Z instead. Now, once you said that, you want to keep them updated promptly after. So for example, the day after, say, hey, remember how I mentioned yesterday we'll be changing X, Y, and Z in campaigns? That's already changed. We're monitoring daily to make sure that things are improving. The day after, hey, now that we change all of this, we notice that we're getting X, Y, and Z type of better results in our reply rate. And therefore, we're seeing that we're going now down the right path. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. Hey, so always handle challenges proactively. Don't let the clients find it first. You find it, you mention, and you show the way out. Now, let's get into the next one. How do we actually prevent and manage scope creep? This is extremely important. Now, scope creep, to be very honest, is like mold under floorboards. Unseen until it rots all of your margins. A lot of companies accept one extra deliverable here, another extra deliverable there, don't really frame it as a bonus, and they end up doing a lot more work that wasn't paid, that wasn't appreciated, and now they end up losing the client. And so not only that, it comes back to all of the issues that we talked about in the beginning. The team now has a lower morale. You may lose your team, and now you gotta pay to replace them, etc. So always keep that in mind. So how do we solve that? It's very simple. First, clear agreements. We want to have a very detailed scope document that leaves no room for misinterpretation. It shows exactly what deliverable will be delivered. Okay, you are not saying things in vague manner. We're going to launch your campaigns. No, we're going to launch 5 campaigns. You're not going to say we're going to generate 10 meetings in a month. You're going to say we're going to launch 5,000 contacts in your campaigns with the ideal lead rate that we discussed. That's going to generate 10 meetings at the end. Okay, so you're very specific. If you want to see what one of our agreements look like, let me know. You can drop a comment down below or send me a DM. I'm happy to give you an example. Of course, I'm going to remove all of the sensitive information, but I'll show you the overall scope and the overall layout that we have in our agreements. Now, the next thing is you got a buffer planning. If you have 30-day cycles, I cannot stress enough that you should have deliverables delivered in 25 days instead. And you want to have the wiggle room to negotiate the contracts. If you need to renegotiate anything, you want to be able to bump invoices earlier and make sure the client is ready to continue for the next month. So always plan 30-day deliverables in 25 days instead. And the last one, frame extra work as extra work. You always want to add additional labels for extra work, such as bonuses or extras. What does it look like? Hey, we noticed that we had this issue with deliverability early on in the month. We think that 1,000 of those leads did not perform because they just weren't delivered. Now, what we're going to do instead is we're going to launch another extra 1,000 as the bonus, because we want to strengthen our relationship, really believe in your product, and want to make sure that people actually see it. And so we're going to do that by next Friday. So the framework here is, it was labeled as a bonus and it has a due date, okay? That way they can actually be appreciative of it, and there is no extra room for them to extrapolate that, ask for more, or ask for it too long, any longer. And that's why you always want to define a deadline. Now, being honest, while occasional bonuses make sense for valuable clients, consistently allowing scope expansion without compensation damages your business in every way that we talked about in the very beginning of this video. Now, let's actually get into the other tail end of this, which is how do we monetize if we're getting client momentum? How do we make them stay? And not only that, get more momentum from it. And so successful client relationships create opportunities to grow your business. Strategic timing is crucial for maximizing these opportunities. So first of all, you want to get referrals. As soon as you get a big win or a perceived big win, it's extremely important to emphasize a perceived big win. It's not like your team has completed a lot of work, but the client hasn't seen it, and that's a big win. No, it's the client has acknowledged this was great. That time, you want to present your referral program immediately, and you just want to incentivize them to share their positive experience with other people. And again, incentivize them monetarily if possible by referring you to other businesses. Because guess what? They want you also look good in front of these businesses if this business will get results because of a recommendation they made. So always keep that in mind. Now, the next one is, of course, get case studies, get testimonials, and turn this into a flywheel machine. You want to make sure that you're taking all of the positive feedback and turning that into potential to acquire more customers. And so the way that you do that is you request testimonials, case studies, and of course, permission to share those testimonials and case studies whenever clients are experiencing any positive results. Now, these materials attract very similar high-quality clients and strengthens your sales process, okay? After that first win, perceived or real, your client is in a peak state of belief. And that's the moment to guide the next step, whether it's a referral, testimonial, or a bigger project like we talked about. When they feel a win, they want to give back. So position your ask as a continuation of the journey and not just a favor. Extremely important. You've helped them. Now they want to help you grow too. Now, the last thing is strategic upsells and downsells. Now, time upsell offers right after significant perceived wins. Let's say you're getting towards the end of the month. They got a lot of leads. You're in this hype state. That's when you want to come in and be like, hey, I think this has a lot of potential. I truly think we should be scaling this to the moon. How about next month we double the volume of sending in all of your campaigns? Boom. Now you got an upsell. Now, downsell are the perfect way for you to take non-ideal clients and turn them into something that still generates you money and still frame everything in a very positive manner to your team, which is we're getting rid of this client that's been not ideal, but here's how we're still helping them, and here's how we're still helping our company by doing so. And so you always want to be framing these downsells as a way to continue and as a win to them, okay? Now, you also want to frame downsells to your team as a way to protect the culture. That is a very powerful positioning. Always make sure you keep that in mind. Let me be very honest with you. If you find a lot of value in this, I think you're going to find a lot of value in another video that I did, which is on how you get your team to fill these clients without you in a way that they feel happy, that they feel validated, and that they want to fulfill more clients together because this company is in it for the long run. I hope you like this. And if you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. I am happy to help you, and I'll see you in the next one.